It's the Sean Widmer Podcast. It's a journal by someone that just really doesn't like to write.
New episode, new week of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. Hope your weekend was awesome. Diving into mine here in a little bit. I'm going to get old man on you and yell at clouds. I think I want to do that today. Also, the end of something here in the house and a bad review and a good review of things. So that's coming up today on the podcast. It's weird in this room. I think I had mentioned it on Friday. This room where I record the podcast, the dungeon, my basement dungeon area. It was being used by Elsa, our nanny, who moved in January. And she had used a lot of this room for clothing storage. There's a bunch of clothing, like movable clothing racks down here. The bathroom she used is right behind me, the wall behind me. That's the basement bathroom. And so this kind of space was where I did the podcast, but it was Elsa's space as well for getting ready and all that stuff. She moved. She's done. She came in December, or excuse me, in January to be a live-in nanny, watch the kids, the 3 kiddos, and she let us know a couple weeks ago that the time in Lexington was coming to a close. She's heading back to the Northwest. So a little bit of a bummer. You know, I think we had kind of planned on it being a year, and we were halfway through it, and it's over. So a little bit of a bummer in terms of scheduling for our lives, but it was a fun experience. It was a fun experience. I hope Elsa liked it. I mean, obviously, she liked it not enough to stay for the full year, but hopefully she enjoyed enough of it that this will be something she looks back on eventually and says, like, okay, even though there was 3 kids and it was chaos, and I lived in someone else's house, that was kind of fun. So we're now, the house is like ours again. And so I'm like right back into walk around in my underwear. That is a couple things. One, I get this bathroom down here back in the basement, which is much needed. So I've got my spot where I can take care of business, and also a spot when I'm done with basketball. I always hated being done with basketball and going into the bathroom upstairs, risking waking up my wife, waking up kids. I can just sneak back down to the basement, shower down here, and feel good about being clean and also not having waken up anyone in the family. But the end of that is now here. So the house feels a little bit empty, a little bit weird. There's no one to make. She took her espresso machine with her. Shame on her to take her espresso machine with her. But I no longer have the morning latte option. It's not here anymore. Kind of a bummer. Need someone in the neighborhood to step up and get that done. Anyways, it's now recording in a more empty space. Maybe sounds a little more echoey. There's a lot of clothes in here that were absorbing any of the bouncing of me talking. Maybe did the podcast keep her awake? I don't know. I didn't know half the stuff that was going on in her little world in the house. I realized after she had said, okay, I'm going to be going back to the Northwest. I was like, well, I probably could have done a better job paying a little more attention to what was happening, but also I got my own things going on. One thing that was weird is the difference. You get to experience the difference in humans, because one thing that was talked about a lot was Elsa had just graduated college, 23 years old, and it came up a lot of how difficult 23 is. And I think there's a lot of people who experience leaving college and the years after college, and maybe those being difficult years as you're trying to get the next phase of life going on. And she'd bring it up to me like, yeah, it's just that hard time of life. I looked around like, me? 23? Me? No, 23 for me was good times. The end of college, post-college years are some of my favorite times. It was funny though. She'd bring it up and I was like, you're barking up a tree that wishes I was your age. It was like that time where you're done, like no longer in school. I got a job in radio, but I was working like 3 jobs. I was working an astronomical amount of hours, but still somehow made time to stay up till 2 o'clock with buddies. For me, it was that age where you could still be friends with college guys because they're your age, but you could also kind of like be friends with the people who were out of college, maybe a couple years older, young professionals, because you were kind of in their world. It was this wonderful spot where you could just chameleon your way through relationships. I loved it, but it was just one of those interesting things I noticed where you go, okay, well, this is one of those, everyone's life is extremely different, and just an eye-opener. It's interesting. Anyways, it was great having her. I'm glad we had this experience. She will be missed here. She did a great job helping with the kids, and I'm going to miss the lattes in the morning. Just to be really honest, I'm going to miss those lattes in the morning. Okay. Before we get into a positive and negative for Kelly's What Are You Into, which thanks to everyone who sent the Kelly's What Are You Into's last week. I had fun with them. I hope you had fun with them. I hope people enjoyed them. I actually need to check. I haven't seen what kind of comments we got today. I'm hoping we have comments either ripping or not ripping the Friday episode, which went way too long. All right. I went on Friday north with the kids, the older kids. Took the older kids, and my cousin's daughter was playing in a really cool basketball tournament. She's going to be in 9th grade. She's a really good hooper, and there's this big national tournament going on this weekend, and I got to go check it out. We got to watch Noelia play, and it was awesome. She's really good, and the tournament was really cool, and there was a ton of big-time women's college basketball coaches that I recognized just walking around, watching a ton of talent on 50-some basketball courts all jammed into one building, games going nonstop. Basketball lovers' delight. Just basketball everywhere. But the thing I'm going to take away from this trip is a little bit of sadness from my childhood to where we are now, because my son has been asking for something since we got back. He wants to revisit something, and it makes me sad. So inside of this basketball facility, of course, there's always basketball games, but my cousin, being who she is, wanted to spoil Huck and Olivia because she doesn't get to see them a lot. So this was her time to solidify herself as someone from Washington of importance in their lives by spoiling them. So she got them these big things of popcorn, kettle corn, regular popcorn that they loved. But then in between Noelia's games, we were looking for something to do, and Kristen said the magic word. You guys, do you want to go to the arcade? Of course they did. I wanted to go to the arcade. So we head over, and there's, this side room with all these games. And I realize, old man me, and it makes me sad to see and to know, but it's the reality. The arcade world is so different now than it was when I was a kid, and it's a bummer. Because now, and you see them when I was a kid, you'd see it at Chuck E. Cheese, but not even as much as you see it now. Wonderland for you Spokane people, North Side Spokane people, miniature golf, go-karts. They'd have all the fun things, and they've got arcade games. All of those things have changed, and my son is never going to experience a real arcade unless I seek one out. There was one called Jedi Alliance in Spokane that was great. But if you went to an arcade when I was a kid, it was going to be filled with arcade games. Ninja Turtles, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Asteroids, Gauntlet, all these great arcade games. And now it is push a button, a screen starts pretty much running some kind of slot machine game, hit a button, hopefully you win a bunch of tokens, and can turn them in at some machine to get some crappy prize at the end of the time. And that's what it was. There's no longer an arcade game where you're playing some kind of side scroller or anything like that. They have the shooting games, and that was it. And it bummed me out because I was like, Huck, there was a time in your dad's life where I would want to save all my allowance money, beg my mom and dad, someone to drive me to San Cristobal, some 45 minutes away from the city we lived in, and just jam quarters into NBA Jam Tournament Edition, trying to continue on my STW save and just trying to beat all of the NBA teams in that game. One of my birthdays, Micah Huffman and I went there, and we spent the entire time. We played a couple of things at Gauntlet, maybe a couple quarters, Bolivares spent on Gauntlet, but otherwise, it was tournament edition for an hour, and it's one of my most important and most well-remembered birthdays I had, was going to the arcade and just playing tournament edition for an entire afternoon. I thought it was the coolest thing. But yeah, it's not like that anymore. And the arcades have changed, and it's a bummer. And so now when you go to an arcade, you're most likely going to see these kind of games where it's the claw game or, like I mentioned, the slot machine style game to earn tokens, earn tickets, and buy prizes. And now you have to seek out, if you're going to try to find an arcade like I liked growing up, you have to seek out a specialty arcade. There is a place in Lexington, the Arcade Bar, down in the Distillery District, and they have a ton of arcade games. And the reason it's there is because it's the Arcade Bar. It's playing to people my age, people who can obviously drink, because we're all over 21, we're all old. And they don't need to worry about it being an establishment to advertise to kids. Kids want to apparently go win themselves another plastic helicopter. Anyways, it was just a bummer thing to go to the arcade and realize there was no arcade games. And Huck was not going to sit there and play Simpsons. He was going to push a button and try to collect an egg that he would crack open and find a 5-cent coin or a 5-cent toy. That's how it was. All right, we got to do some Kelly's What Are You Into to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. You can always make your comments. We do comments at the end of these podcasts over at seanslife.com. You can go to YouTube and comment there, or you can comment if you listen on Spotify. Let's do this.
Kelly's What Are You Into?
The What Am I Into is where we're going to start, and it's Delish Pizza in Nicholasville, Kentucky. I don't know if you listen, Delish, but I got one of your pizzas on Friday night, 4.9 star rating online. And I was like, well, then something's got to be going on. There's something weird about that. It was great. Got a triple, 3 different kinds of pepperoni pizza. It was so good. It was, I want another one right now. But they also I ordered garlic sticks. And these were the garlic sticks I've ever had in my life. We opened the box for the garlic sticks. The entire house immediately, instantly killed all vampires that were in the house. Garlic everywhere, as far as the eye could see and smell. It was crazy, but it was really good. So Delish Pizza. I say Delish because that's the hamburger place in Spokane. Delish Pizza in Nicholasville. You did it. You will have a returning customer in me. And is it the best pizza in the Lexington area? I don't know, but it might be. Just might be. Now, on the opposite side, Kelly's What I'm Not Into. Try to watch a movie Friday night. It was Elsa's last night here. She wanted to watch a movie. And there's a rom-com she said she'd been dying to see. I'm going to tell you right now, low on the com. Decent on the rom, low on the com. Andrew Garfield, Florence. Why do I want to say Joyner? That's not right. What? Am I not going to remember her name right now? Florence Pugh, Andrew Garfield. We Live in Time. It was on Max, HBO Max. And Elsa had sold it as a romantic comedy that got great reviews. No, it wasn't the one. It wasn't funny. And they tried to get the romance in there. Is my son crying right now? Spoiler alert, and there was a cut in there in post. He was crying. Anyways, they tried to get the comedy in there. They didn't. They tried to get the romance in there. They sort of did. It was not a great movie. They had some pieces in play for We Live in Time that seemed like it was going to be good, messing with how the timeline of the story was told. And so they would flash back and forward and in the middle. And that part seemed like it was going to be cool. And then they didn't land it. in my opinion. And I need a good romantic comedy. I love a romantic comedy. I need a good one. That was not the one. So if it's not going to be a romantic comedy, I just need it to be full on romantic, where I need to feel something. I need to cry. I'm pretty easy to cry for a movie like that. I didn't even cry at this. So that was a waste of a movie night. Way to go, Elsa. Great pick on your way out the door. We Live in Time. Never again. And I will not recommend it to anyone. All right, let's see how we do in the comments. Do we have comments today? Sean'sLife.com. Are there any there? I know there's none on YouTube. Nothing there. We shut everyone down with the Kelly's What Are You Into pod on Friday. But I do think there's some on Spotify. Maybe a couple. We can always count on Spokane Ian and Yvonne to come through. And I believe they did. Let's see. Excuse me. Let's see as I hiccup my way through this. What's going on right now with my entire setup? There we go. Come on. Go and give me the comments. Give me my comments. Give me my comments. Why isn't that working? All right, I'm going to do it on my phone. Let's read some comments, shall we? The first one, we're going to go from Yvonne, who said this. My husband is going to the Superman movie as I am at my eye appointment. Andrew started into Pokemon Go again the last few months. I have my record player and vinyls. The last few years. Mostly rock and roll and a few country. Most of my CDs are country. Just got the Jelly Roll record. Okay, the vinyl thing is cool to me. I still think it's cool. I like it. So congrats, Yvonne. Cool on that one. I'd love to know what your husband thought of the Superman movie. It's got great reviews. I think it did 122 million on the box office. I'm dying to see it. So now it's just trying to figure out a time when I can make my way to the theater. I want to watch it in the theater. That seems like a theater movie. Spokanean said this. You know darn well I'm the only one that makes a valid argument for Die Hard being a Christmas movie. Yeah, Ian had a comment to me one time about it. I think I just agreed with him because I didn't want to fight. But it's not a Christmas movie. Target sells vinyls of the new releases. Yes, they do. Target does. And they're cool. They look cool in the store. They look cool in Target. They look cooler than the CD ones even. I always liked the CD racks at Target. Fred Meyer, when they had the electronics section in Fred Meyer. And I guess they still do in some of them. And you would go and it would have the top 10 best-selling albums. Circuit City had that. New releases and then top 10 bestsellers. Oh, I loved looking at that CD display at whether it was Target or Circuit City, which was the best one, or Freddy's. Great stuff. Thank you for listening to your favorite 18. That is how long this is. Your favorite 15-minute podcast. Hope your Monday goes well.